Melissa had been of the company for 6 years. 6 years of solid reviews. 6 years of showing up early, training the new people, covering gaps when someone quit. She was dependable in the way that only someone who genuinely cares about their work can be. Then, one afternoon in March, she made a mistake. She opened the wrong spreadsheet. HR had left it on the shared drive. A salary file. Names, titles, compensation, and there, 3 rows below her name, was the woman she had spent the last 4 months training. Same job title, same team, same responsibilities, $12,000 more per year. Melissa hadn't done anything wrong. She hadn't failed to ask for raises. She'd asked twice and been told the budget was tight. What she hadn't known, what she had no way of knowing, is that her company was running two completely different pay structures. One for people it was trying to keep. One for people it was trying to attract. And the people it was trying to attract always got the better deal. This is called the loyalty penalty. And if you've been at your job for more than 2 years, there is a real chance you are already inside it, without knowing your number. Here's what makes this uncomfortable. It's not happening because your boss doesn't like you. It's not a personality problem. It's not a performance problem. It's happening because of how corporate compensation systems are designed. And those systems have been quietly getting worse for loyal employees for over a decade. Syndio, a workplace equity analytics firm, analyzed compensation data across thousands of job categories. What they found? In 83% of high-paying job groups, roles in HR, finance, marketing, IT, corporate operations, tenured employees do not earn more than new hires doing the same work. And in 30% of those job groups, they earn less. Not the same, less. You can be 3 years into a role, fluent in every system, trusted by every client, and earn less than the person who just finished their first week. This isn't a rumor. It isn't one bad company or one bad manager. It's structural. And it has been sitting quietly underneath every modest annual raise you've ever received. You've probably felt it, even without a name for it. You got a 3% raise this year. You were told that was strong performance. You smiled, said thank you, and moved on. Then a month later, you saw your exact job title posted on your company's own LinkedIn, and the listed salary range was $15,000 above what you're earning right now. That's not a coincidence. That's the system doing exactly what it was designed to do. To understand how this happened, you have to understand how companies actually set pay. Most large employers don't just make up salaries, they hire compensation consultants. Those consultants run annual surveys of what competitors are paying for specific roles. And those benchmarks become the number that shows up on the offer letter for the next person walking in the door. The operative word there is incoming. The benchmarks are built around what it costs to attract someone from outside, not what it costs to keep someone already inside. So every year the market rate for your job title moves. It moves because companies are competing for the same talent pool. It moves because inflation pushes starting salaries up. Your company tracks that number. They adjust what they offer new candidates. They just don't automatically adjust what they offer you. What this creates over time is something HR professionals call pay compression. The gap between what a new hire earns and what a 5-year employee earns slowly collapses, sometimes to zero, sometimes below zero. And unless a company runs a proactive internal equity audit and actively corrects the gap, which most don't, nobody tells you it's happening. Here's the behavioral trap buried inside this design. Companies have split their compensation budget into 2 separate buckets that are managed by completely different people. There's the retention budget. That's the annual raise pool you pull from, typically 3 to 5% per year. Then there's the acquisition budget. That's the market rate money reserved for people the company is actively recruiting. That budget is benchmarked to live market data and adjusted for competition and inflation. The 2 buckets are never compared against each other in the same room. Nobody in that org chart is personally on the hook for the gap between them. The cost lands on you. Let's walk through what this looks like in a single career. You're hired at $58,000. You receive 3% raises every year, which by most corporate standards is considered solid performance. After 5 years, you're earning around $67,000. That feels like progress. And it is, just not as much progress as the job market has made. Because while your salary was growing at 3% a year, the market rate for your role was growing faster, driven by competition, inflation, and companies actively bidding for new talent. The new hire your company brings in this year, for your exact title, your exact responsibilities, starts at $75,000. You've trained the last 3 people in that seat. You know the clients, you know the edge cases, you've solved the problems that aren't in any onboarding document. And you're earning $8,000 a year less than someone walking in cold. Here's the part that actually changes how you see the whole picture. Harvard Business Review analyzed what happens when new hire pay consistently exceeds existing employee pay. The first people to leave aren't the ones who are comfortable, checked out, or settling. It's the top performers, the people with the most skills, the most options, the most leverage. They leave quietly. They don't complain, don't file grievances, don't make a scene. They update their resume on a Sunday, take the call on a Tuesday, and give their 2 weeks on a Friday. So the loyalty penalty punishes twice. Once in your paycheck, once in who stays. Let's put real numbers to this. In professional roles, finance, marketing, operations, technology, the loyalty penalty typically runs between 10 and 20%. At a $63,000 salary, the gap is roughly $12,000 a year. Not because you negotiated wrong, not because you missed a performance metric, because you stayed. Over 10 years, that $12,000 gap is $120,000 in raw salary left on the table. Factor in what that money would have grown to inside a retirement account, and you're looking at well over $180,000 in lost wealth by the time you're ready to stop working. Not because of bad luck, not because of a market crash, because you were loyal to a system that wasn't loyal back. That number is the down payment you didn't have. It's the student loan you couldn't pay off. It's the retirement contribution you kept telling yourself you'd increase next year. It's the financial cushion that would have changed every other decision you made about risk, about debt, about whether you could afford to leave a job that was making you miserable. ADP tracks real-time wage growth across millions of American workers. Their most recent data shows that workers who switched jobs in early 2026 saw 6.4% pay growth. Workers who stayed? 4.5%. That gap looks small in isolation. Run it over a decade, measured against a lower base salary to begin with, and it's not small anymore. Now, I want to be straight with you here, because this story has a wrinkle that matters. The premium for switching jobs has been shrinking. In 2022, job hoppers were gaining about 9% wage growth over stayers. By 2025, that had dropped to around 6%. By early 2026, the gap between switchers and stayers has narrowed to its smallest point in years. Which means the classic advice, just leave, is becoming more complicated. This is the part companies are not advertising. When switching becomes less attractive, the pressure to accept internal underpayment quietly rises. Your leverage shrinks. The loyalty penalty doesn't disappear when job hopping gets harder. It gets worse because you have fewer exits. So what can you actually do? The answer isn't always to leave, but it starts with knowing your number. What does a new hire for your exact role at your company earn right now? If you don't know that, you cannot have the conversation. And your employer has every incentive to make sure you never ask. Salary transparency laws in California, Colorado, New York, and Washington now require employers to post pay ranges on public job listings. If your company operates in any of those states, that information is sitting in a job posting right now. Today. Use it. Run the comparison. Then decide whether you want to have the conversation from strength or let another year pass. Here's the question I keep coming back to. Companies spend enormous sums replacing the people who leave. Recruiting fees, onboarding costs, lost institutional knowledge, months of reduced productivity. The average cost of replacing a mid-level professional is estimated at 6 to 9 months of their salary. On a $75,000 role, that's over $50,000 gone to replace someone who left because they weren't paid fairly. They could have just paid the person they already had. And the fact that they didn't isn't carelessness. It's a structural gap. The retention budget and the acquisition budget are managed by different teams with different goals and different incentives. Nobody in that org chart is individually accountable for the loyalty penalty. The cost is real. The accountability is invisible, which means the only person in the room who is actually tracking what your loyalty is costing you is you. If something here landed, the next video is already waiting. Because this system, the one where your company knows the gap and quietly bets you won't push back, connects to a much bigger question about what American employers actually owe the people who built what they're selling. And what happens when more and more workers quietly decide the answer is nothing. If you made it this far, you already think differently about this than most people do. The topics on this channel aren't about quick wins or market predictions. They're about understanding the systems that quietly shape your financial life, so you can stop being surprised by them. If that's the kind of content you want more of, subscribing takes 2 seconds. I'll see you in the next video.